Okay. Ardra. Now, the deity that's connected, I tell you what, Ardra, let's start with the story first, because I'm really finding these stories when they're present, and I have to admit, I couldn't find a good mythological story for every one of these, but for the ones that we did, it's just so excessively meaningful in terms of helping us to understand what that particular nakshatra is about.
Right.
So for Ardra, there's a story about a particular demon. And for those not familiar too deeply with Vedic mythology, demon has a different connotation within Vedic philosophy than it does within the Judeo-Christian concept.
Mm-hmm.
So Taraka was a demon who was actually devoted to Brahma.
Okay.
The creative aspect of God. And Taraka practiced severe austerities in order to be granted the boon of undefeatable power. It's interesting, though, because he didn't ask for immortality, which in the story of a lot of the demons, a lot of them asked for, immortality, but he asked for undefeatable strength.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted his strength to be so great that only a 7-day-old child could slay him, because he thought that would be absolutely impossible. How could a newborn child, 7 days old, slay him? So once he actually got this gift from Brahma, he then began to oppress the gods and give the gods a really hard time. So here we see that Taraka, who was really devoted to Brahma, also begins to torment the gods,
mm-hmm.
right? The concept here being the mind that we're given and the passionate nature of the mind that can, really work fast, come up with a lot of different ideas in a very strong, passionate manner, and you'll see why the passion's there in a moment, and how that's actually used, how our intelligence is used, whether our intelligence is used for, self-identification with the objects we perceive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then we get wrapped up in the world of, birth after birth after birth, or whether we're using that for the process of evolution so that we can become free from our sensory attachment.
Right.
And there's very much that concept with this particular story, because Taraka was on one level devoted to Brahma, but on the other level was also tormenting the gods.
Yeah.
So Taraka basically did get, like we said, he got supreme strength. But what ended up happening was the gods persuaded Shiva. If you'll recall in our story about, I think it was Kritika, they persuaded Shiva to give his seed, from which Kartikeya was born.
Right.
And 7 days after Kartikeya was born, he then slew Taraka.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the one who actually overcame it. There's symbolism there too. We'll touch on that in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
But the concept here being how we can become so passionate about something. And I find with Ardra Nakshatra, the processes that are connected with that are, I like using the analogy of tunnel vision. You're just looking straight ahead at something that you're really wanting to achieve. But quite often, the answer's right in front of you.
Right.
But you're missing it because your focus is so laser-like and narrow that you're missing something that's right in front of you.
Right.
Now, interestingly enough, the ruling planet that's connected with Ardra is Rahu,
mm-hmm.
the North Node. And as we both know with Rahu being the dragon's head, there are things that have a potential to fall through. I always like using the analogy with Rahu and Ketu and the dragon's head or demon's head and the demon's tail, that when you have the head without a digestive system, then there can be a voracious desire to eat things or consume things.
Mm-hmm.
But since there's no digestive system with which to process it, then those things tend to, and especially in terms of intelligence, kind of slip through our grasp. We miss things, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like using that analogy with it. So again, there is the concept that the mind can become so passionate out of its desire to achieve things that it misses something that's directly in front of it. And the deity that's connected with Ardra is Rudra. Rudra is a very stormy deity. One of the symbols connected with Ardra is a teardrop of Shiva. And quite often with the processes of Ardra, the mind will lead in a particular direction until things end up not working out, and an emotional cleansing comes about that helps the individual to see more clearly.
Right.
The Shakti of Ardra is the power of effort. So I do want to clarify here, all Ardra-related activities are not necessarily bad. That power of effort, that Shakti that we use, can be very positive when it's directed in a very spiritually oriented manner.
Right.
When it's directed towards things which may not be that healthy for us, well, then it's going to lead, towards an opening of awareness, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So the basis above and the basis below, and the result with this particular nakshatra, the basis above in the heavens is hunting or searching. The basis below is reaching the goal. So here we have the heavens giving the ability to hunt or search for the answer to something. And the basis below here on earth is we're striving to reach the goal. And the result of the union between these two things is bringing about achievement.
Right.
Now, Ardra processes are very stormy, as per Rudra, the storm god. And as we begin to see through the gunas that are connected with Ardra, it makes complete sense, because here we have Rajasic energy at the foundation, very passionate, right? And then it's built upon with Tamasic energy, which becomes very focused or determined. And the outcome leads to Sattvic energy, an opening of awareness. But all those three gunas blending leads to, quite a turbulent atmosphere that's going on.
Right.
And it's no surprise that the primary motivation that's connected with Ardra is that of kama, or desire. As we said, the ruling planet's Rahu, and the Trimurti association is Shiva.
Right.
Very wonderfully connected to Rudra, because Rudra being a form of Shiva.
Right.
So Shiva, of course, destroying illusion. So again, we have that process with Ardra of destroying illusion.
Okay, good. Well, so few quick questions. I'm curious. So to help us understand Ardra a little bit better, let's take a planet as an example. And I'm thinking, let's think of Venus, for example. So if someone has Venus in Ardra, and if Venus rules second or the ninth house or something of this nature, how might you color that interpretation of Venus within someone's chart? Again, knowing Venus's nature, how do you mix that with Ardra, and also considering the house lords, if it was, say, the second or the ninth house?
Well, let's use the second house. The person could be dependent upon, how Venus is supported in the person's chart. Right. They could become so focused on pursuing things that are going to fulfill their, needs, or pursuing wealth, that they, get caught up and they actually miss something that might be in front of them in terms of their own prosperity.
Okay.
Let's look at the ninth house lord. If Venus is well supported, well, the person could, make some very powerful, wise choices in terms of their dharma, or in terms of learning particular things, all being ninth house associations, spiritual growth, using that Ardra energy in a very wise manner. Let's say the person had their Venus as the ninth house ruler, and it happened to be in Ardra, and the person was really into astrology. They could get very passionate and just really fall in love with doing astrology, to the extent that that was, really going to help them in their pursuits, rather than lead to a situation where things, just kind of ended up falling through.
Right,
now,
and that would
still have that opening process at some point, but it wouldn't be a turbulent letdown, because the concept with Ardra being, if we get caught up in our desires too intensively, then it can lead to a downfall.
Right. Okay. And so, again, kind of tying all this back into things we've already discussed, just to reiterate. So, using the example of Venus, I know we need to look at Venus in regards to aspects towards it and things of this nature. But since the ruling planet of Ardra is Rahu,
Right.
then we would want to check and see how Rahu is doing in the chart.
Mm-hmm.
Which again adds a level of complexity, because in order to know how Rahu is doing in the chart,
You have to know how its ruler's doing.
yes, we have to know how its ruler is doing too. So
Yeah.
with Rahu and Ketu ruled nakshatras, there's a little bit of a step-by-step procedure where you figure out what planet is in the nakshatra, and then if it's Rahu, you find where Rahu is, and then you figure out the lord of Rahu, what sign is in, who owns that sign. And then if that sign lord is in good dignity, doing very well, well supported, then that can make the planet in Ardra work in a little bit more of its higher capacity, higher function. And if the lord of Rahu, in this particular case, was in difficult dignity or had some difficult avashtas influencing it, then the person might get lost more in the complexity or the storm of Ardra versus finding that goal or finding that kind of satisfaction through it. Does that sound accurate?
Exactly. But going back to something, because you picked a good case in point with Venus, because there's the concept of, Rahu is really connected to our compulsive desires, whereas Venus is connected to our conscious desires.
Right.
So, where those two come together, you've got a lot of power and a lot of strength. If that power and strength is being directed in a very positive manner, mm-hmm. then you've got a lot of really, good things going on, and, that are just happening naturally. The person is, being driven
right.
to pursue something, which is, very good for them. If it's in a very badly supported avasta or strength, so to speak, then that person is making a lot of compulsive and poor choices.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, it depends on Venus too. Yeah.
Yes. Correct. Understandably. Okay. Yeah. Good. All right. Well, any other thoughts on Ardra? And I know I interrupted you there for a moment.
Oh no, that's okay. I think we're pretty good on that.
Okay, good. All right, well then, nakshatra, the third nakshatra I want to look at today is that, let's see, my notes aren't quite lining up. There we are, Pranavasu.